All right, we're back with our Q&A. We have our young brother at the front. Please go ahead. Haji.
Quick question. Prophet Muhammad
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
some say that he was illiterate, that he couldn't read. Some say that he was read when he said, "Ma'ana biqari." He was scared of the angel. And he was shocked that he couldn't read. What's the?
That's tomorrow's lecture. So tomorrow you'll have the answer to that question. And yeah. بس ما أنا بقارئ ولا وما أقرأ حسب الرواية. روايتهم هم ما أنا بقارئ. روايتنا احنا عن الإمام حسن العسكري وما أقرأ.
Yesterday we spoke in lecture 8 Q&A. We asked why you cannot own something. When we talked about the dog and that we can own it as a guard dog, we can't own it as something that's not a
Yeah, not necessarily not a guard dog. So we have a religious ruling that states that najisul ayn la yumlak, meaning that something that is in its essence najis or impure cannot be owned by a Muslim. So, for example, and this happens often in the West, when I remember I went to California, a brother asked me, he said, I closed the deal, and then this guy, brought me a bottle of wine as a gift. And I told him I'm Muslim, I don't drink alcohol, So he said, oh, it doesn't matter, He said, I felt too embarrassed to reject it. I told him I don't drink it. So at the time he said, what do I do with it? I said, well, you can get rid of it, like dump it, basically, So he said to me, I said to him, but anyway, you can't own something that is najis al-ayn, that in its essence is impure. This is an Islamic ruling. And since it's an Islamic ruling, then we accept it ta'abudan, meaning that since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is the case, that you cannot own something that is najis, then we accept it. But Allah here gives an exception. And the exception is ما له منفعة معتد بها عند العقلاء, meaning that there is a benefit from this thing that is acceptable to the intellectuals, religious intellectuals of society. So, for example, I used to work in a lab when I was in college, and we used to do experiments on pig cells and dog cells, okay? Hyperacute rejection, this is human physiology. It was an experimental medicine lab, and it had to do with basically transplantation of liver cells into humans from dogs or from pigs, and doing cross-species transplants, which are called xenografts. So these cells are pig cells, so they're najis. The dog cells are dog cells. That's najis al-ayn. So technically speaking, you really can't own them, which means you can't buy them and you can't sell them. So what is the workaround? The workaround is that لها منفعة معتد بها عند العقلاء, which means what? Which means that there is a good usage for these things that is acceptable to the intellectuals of society. Okay? Which is what? Which is experimenting for scientific advancement in order to save human lives, right? Same thing with, let's say, for example, feces or soil. Okay, soil, like manure, for example, right? That's of course, if it's from a dog or an animal that is najis, is going to be najis in itself, right? So based on that, then I shouldn't be able to own it or sell it. But if I'm going to sell it as, let's say, soil or fertilizer, then I can sell it. Why? Because there is an acceptable usage for it. Dogs, as another example, dogs, yes, najis al-ayn, you can't own it, but unless there is a benefit to society that is acceptable by the intellectuals of society that are religious, of course. So, for example, a guard dog. Okay, and we see the guard dog that guarded Ashab al-Kahf, the people of the cave in the Holy Quran. Okay, a shepherd, right? A herding dog. So a guard dog, a shepherd, herding dog, a dog for the blind, right? Seeing eye dog, right? A dog that is an emotional, what do they call them? Emotional support dogs, that's acceptable, shar'an. Of course, police dogs, yeah, that's acceptable as well. So if you have a reason that is acceptable, that's considered to be an acceptable usage of this item, then it's totally fine for you to take possession of it. Now, do you really own it? No, we say there's a rule called a rule of jurisprudence, general rule of jurisprudence called qa'idat al-yad, which means that it's the rule of the hand. If my hand is on something, then people are going to assume that I own it. So as long as my hand is considered to be control over something. Okay? So for example, you get into your car, right? Which means you have control over your car. So when people see you, they assume this car is yours, right? So this is called qa'idat al-yad. Now, let's say for example, I work in, let's say for example, I have a dog. Let's say I have a dog, okay? And the dog I want to sell, but I can't really sell it because it's najis, so I don't really own it per se. I just have control over it. So if I want to sell it, I'm not selling it. I'm getting paid to remove my hand off the possession of that dog, and somebody else possesses it. So I get paid for the service of removing my hand. Do I need to have that intention in my heart? No, I just need to know that that's really what I'm getting paid for. Okay, that's all. Okay, right? Yes. Any other questions? Hey, Haji. No.
هل كان بديل أقول النبي عيسى عليه السلام بوجد على الصليب؟
نعم، يقال أن البديل هو الذي خان النبي عليه السلام، النبي عيسى عليه السلام.
So there was somebody on the...
Yeah, the guy who told the Romans to come and arrest him there. كذا إنه هو شبه لهم إنه هو النبي عيسى, and then he got crucified. Yeah. ويمكرون ويمكر الله والله خير الماكرين. Yes, Shahid.
In the poetry competition.
Yes.
In rap battles, their goal is to try and sometimes embarrass their opponent.
Yes.
Is it the same in poetry? Or?
In poetry, yeah, it's the same. Of course, it's just to one up each other, not necessarily embarrass. But I mean, you could tell the challenge, right? If the jinn and the men were all to come together and come up with the Quran like this, they wouldn't be able to. Ya Allah, show them. And they fail, right? All right. You say he made it up. Bring me 10 chapters like it. They fail. All right. You say he made it up. Bring me 1 chapter like it. They fail, right? So the challenge is in their literary prowess more than anything else. And I remember talking to a brother a while back. This was in Seattle, and I said, and we've got to finish here because I have to go to the next lecture. But remember, I saw a brother, and he was in Seattle, and he had a Tupac shirt. You guys know Tupac? Yeah? The rapper. So I saw his Tupac shirt. I said, do you like rap? He said, yeah, of course. I said, who's your favorite rapper? He said, look at my shirt. I said, Tupac. I said, why? He said, well, because he speaks the truth. I said, okay, so you like poetry that speaks the truth? He said, yeah. I said, well, you should come to our lectures. He said, why? I said, because, you're going to hear the best poetry you've ever heard in your entire life. He said, what do you mean? I told him, well, you know how like rappers, when they are doing rap challenges, they'll say A to the B to the C, and then they'll start rapping. And then they drop the mic, and then everybody says, whoa, man, that's heavy, right? He lays some heavy words on us, right? Well, the same thing happened with the Arabs, with the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the words of the Holy Quran. What does he say at the beginning of many of the chapters? For example, Alif Lam Mim, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, Taha, Yasin. He's saying, look at these letters. This is one of the interpretations of the letters, by the way. Al-Harf al-Mutaqatta', right? One of the interpretations. Is Allah saying, look at these letters. These are your Arabic letters. Watch the miracle I'm going to make out of these, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drops the mic with these challenges, okay? And then what happens? And then Allah reveals, one of the verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals is, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا وَلَوْ أُنزِلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى جَبَلٍ لَا. So he's saying, look, I am bringing down upon you heavy words, so heavy that if they were to come down onto a mountain, it would shudder and shatter completely from its place. Heavy words. رأيك؟ حلو.
Yeah.
Yeah. والحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين.